Opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not WSTU. WSTU does not endorse any products mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU.
The Treasure Coast longest-running local talk radio show is on the air. The Treasure Coast Forum, brought to you by Law. Get interested, get educated, get involved, and give us a call with your opinions at 220-9788. And here's your host of the Treasure Coast Forum.
Welcome back to WSTU 1450, the Treasure Coast Forum. I'm your host, Cassidy Fowler, and today I'm joined with...
Maddie, Grace,
Gage.
Nice.
All right. Welcome one and all. Yes, good to have everybody on board.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about weather.
Riders on the storm.
All right, so as everyone knows, Hurricane Dorian is approaching quite quickly. So as of, I believe, noon this afternoon, it was updated to be a Category 4 as it hits Florida, and the eye is predicted to be around Vero Beach, Florida.
Yeah, it's a different models, the spaghetti
Yep.
models. You know, I don't know if it's regular spaghetti or angel hair, but the different models are projecting anywhere from Boynton Beach up to Indian River County and through there. So
Yep.
So yeah, and that's so the models are split. The European model and the U.S. model for a short period actually agreed on a location, which everybody in the weather world was excited about. They go, okay, we got it nailed, and then they diverged. So, anyways, but the favorite model that they prefer to refer to is the European model.
I know that the cone was just so big earlier this week. I remember the cone was from, I believe, a little bit south of us, all the way up to the northern tip of South Carolina, which was just remarkable that that much guessing.
And the current cone has got Georgia involved. So
we'll see how it actually turns out as it approaches even more. But I know that everyone definitely has their plans by now, hopefully. I hope that everyone listening is prepared, has their water, has their gas, especially with media making it even more chaotic to get water and gas. Yeah.
It was I realized I needed some small batteries for a couple of devices at home.
Know where you're getting that.
Oh my God. So ended up at the dollar store. I actually had a few batteries left at the dollar store. It's gone now, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
Dollar General was smoked. I went to the dollar.
I know
Dollar
that
Tree.
there's just so many long waits for gas and no water in the stores. I know that Grace today was in a very long line for gas.
Yeah, I actually went to like 5 different gas stations just trying to get gas.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Which one worked out for our listeners?
I went to the Marathon, like the really big one off of Canner.
Okay, all right.
And yeah, but I actually like spent about 10 minutes waiting to turn into the actual gas station and then another 10 minutes sitting in the parking lot. Yeah.
Just very chaotic as the storm approaches. So what's everyone's plans for the actual D-Day of Sunday, Monday?
Yeah, it's going to be, I think landfall is projected for Monday.
Monday in the AM, yeah.
And so we'll, I'm taking a wait and see attitude. And, but yeah, definitely preparing. So
I might try to evacuate to Tampa. Don't know how good of a plan that is.
We were talking about that.
Yep.
My wife and I, actually, that's on our possibility list. Yes.
So, Maddie, what are you...
The problem is that the weather track, I don't mean to interrupt you, but the weather track is going to actually take, if it hits, in our general area.
It'll go exactly west that direction.
It may go through Orlando and into Tampa. So that's one of the models. So the only advantage of being in Tampa is that...
it wouldn't be as strong. It'd probably be a Category 1, maybe Category 2 tops.
Right. And then you could always head south and avoid the storm altogether at that point. That's another plan.
I think that's what Maddie's doing. She's heading over west and south to Fort Myers. So
yeah, perfect. Yeah, Fort Myers is like the ideal place to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially because personally, our family, our home is a very old wooden home. So
That's
no matter
probably
what,
very good.
Mm-hmm.
we want to get out of there. So
Yeah.
Personally, I'm not going to have a deck anymore after this Category 4 storm.
Really?
After the 150 mile per hour winds,
Yeah.
definitely not going to have that little rickety wooden deck. It's
Yeah.
going to be gone.
Well, okay, where's the deck located in the back of the house?
Yeah, in the back. It's actually, it loops around. It's like a Key West style house,
Oh,
and it
okay.
loops around the
Oh.
entire thing. So it's
Oh.
gone. The entire thing's gone. Hope that the house doesn't go with it. But
Right.
it's survived many hurricanes. Just, I don't think it'll survive this
You never
one.
know. It's
Never
it's
know,
more
yeah.
than the wind is the water is always the big
And I'm
concern.
right on the intercoastal.
Ah,
So just not a good situation.
Good.
Not the best place to be, but
a good place not to be at
good
the
place
moment.
not to be. Yep.
Yeah. Yikes.
So Grace, what are you doing?
We're still waiting it out. We might stick around here. I think that's our current plans.
Yeah,
but
the models are just so unpredictable. We don't actually know where it's going to hit.
Right.
We don't know if it hits north of us, then that's the ideal situation because the wind bands are a lot less strong than if it hits south of us.
Mm.
So that's like we're hoping for it to go north and especially not hit us
Right.
like dead
Right.
on. Yeah.
Right. And Kevin Sharkey, who owns Sharkey Air, the local air conditioning company, and he at our business meeting on Wednesday suggested that if you're home and the power is flickering, one of the things you should want to do is actually turn off the air conditioner at the circuit panel.
Mm-hmm.
He says because with the power coming in and out before it's lost altogether, it's a good likelihood that you can actually blow up your compressor,
Oh,
which is
wow.
a very expensive thing. So
Mhm.
probably best to turn it off safely before it gets out of control.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the power does come back on, you'll have at least a working air conditioning unit. So something to keep in mind.
Yep.
And if you're evacuating, probably a good idea to turn off your switch to your water heater and turn off the water to the building too,
Mhm.
just in case pipes break or things of that sort. So
Yep. And if you have pets and are planning on evacuating and not with your pets, try to drop them off to the Humane Society because I know that they're welcoming pets and it's just so sad to see
Right.
those pets in the middle of the storm and after the storm and all the ruckus.
right,
Yep.
yeah, well,
So-
a lot of chaos. Yeah,
Yeah, so much. But Gage, what are your plans for the hurricane?
Personally, I think I'm just gonna charge my Nintendo Switch and
All right.
eat trail mix and hope that the shutters don't cave in. And yeah, we haven't really come up with a plan yet. I'm very chaotic like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
So you've got video games and stuff you like to play, right?
it'll last 2 hours and then it's boredom for days.
Right.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be unfortunate, but I guess sleep will help me through the storm. Hopefully.
You got a lot of work for IB, right?
That's not gonna happen.
Oh, yeah. No light, no
Don't
can
waste
do.
my time with work when
Oh,
when I have sleeping to do.
there you go. Priorities.
Okay.
So I know at
That's
least
interesting.
Yeah. In years past, at least, I know that both Maddie and I have chosen a very unique place to evacuate. We both, in different times and different hurricanes, have evacuated to Disney World. So, anyone listening, if you don't know where to go and you're looking for a safe place, I highly recommend Disney World. Maddie, can you add or emphasize that in any way?
Well, back in 2017, when our house was supposed to have blown down in that hurricane, we already had plans to go to Disney, and our family's reasoning was the infrastructure was so much better than what we had at home. So we had it on up there, and it was an amazing experience. And even though the area did get hit, you had no idea because of it, everything was so
You're insulated.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the
It
power
was-
stayed on the entire time.
yeah,
I know when I was
we never
there.
lost power.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you could look outside and you could see, wow, it's crazy out there. But on the inside, you didn't know anything was going on.
Mhm.
It's
So,
like being in a spaceship.
yeah.
Wow.
I remember, well, I don't really remember, but I remember my mom telling me that back, I believe, when we moved down here from Atlanta in 2003, 2004, when those two big hurricanes came, when we just moved down here, we weren't really prepared for hurricanes since we were from Atlanta. So we didn't really have the shutters or the water or the food all prepared. So our best bet was Disney World. And so I think during that period when we were hit back to back by 2 hurricanes, I think I lived at Disney for like a month and a half.
Wow.
It's a great experience.
Right? They knew you by name?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I have this one memory of the day after one of the hurricanes, Disney had cleaned up everything and overnight, and their Magic Kingdom Park was open the next day. And I was one of the only kids there. And I remember running down Main Street, USA, and like running up to Mickey and giving him a cute little kiss on his nose and getting a cute picture. Yep.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
How old were you again?
I think I want to say like 4, maybe 5. Yeah. Pretty
adorable.
small. Mhm.
Yeah.
So, especially if you have grandchildren or children out there, I definitely would recommend going to Disney. I know that it might be a little expensive to get a hotel there for sure. Yeah, but it's a good experience, a good way to wait out the storm. And the next day you could go to Disney with little to no waits because nobody wants to go to Disney after a storm.
Right.
Plus
Too
the
busy
fact,
pick it up around the house. Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, and plus the fact that during the hurricane they were accommodating to pets when they usually are not accommodating to pets at all, and in fact have their own like pet motel type thing. But instead, you'd see people like out in the lobby with their dogs, and they'd have activities for dogs, and they'd have like all sorts of family activities going on while the storm was going on outside. So it's a very nice and family experience.
Mhm.
Well, that's good.
Yep.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll get an opportunity next week to talk about it.
Yep, our experiences during the hurricanes.
Yeah.
Hopefully everything holds up. Hopefully my deck does not collapse. Keep you updated on that.
Right. Inquiring minds want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. So what else is up on the docket to talk about?
So another thing that we didn't get a chance to talk about last week, but what was a major event and that has been going on for the past, I believe, 3 weeks now, is the Amazon rainforest and it being on fire.
Mm.
So it's been on fire for a period of time now, but it's important to know, and media is not really releasing this information, that
It's not in wide distribution.
it's not in wide distribution, and this deforestation has been occurring for years. And though this year there has been a spike, this is not the biggest year that it has occurred. Like this is not the largest amount of deforestation that has occurred.
Right.
Yes, it is a tragedy that it is happening, but the kind of lying that's going on and manipulation on social media just truly isn't accurate. I know for a fact, at least on social media, the main reason that we know about the Amazon rainforest being on fire and that it's so prevalent right now in media and in our society is because of famous influential people posting on their social media, either Instagram or Facebook,
Right.
saying that this is a tragedy. The lungs of our planet are on fire. We must stop this. And then like send your prayers. But realistically, sending your prayers probably won't help. And yeah, and also the photos, at least for example, Leonardo DiCaprio, and I know a couple other famous people have posted pictures with that same caption, but the pictures haven't actually been accurate. The pictures in some cases were pictures from fires in Montana years ago or other places and don't actually depict the actual fires in the Amazon rainforest. So it's almost like false advertisement in a way.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Can I butt in?
Yeah, go ahead, butt in. I know that it's bad. I just want to say that.
It didn't sound like you know that it was bad.
Yeah, I know.
Everything
I
you
know.
said sounds like you're trying to downplay it.
Well, I
not-
think that
she's
it's
striving
being
for accuracy, right?
Yeah, I think that it's being upplayed a little bit. That like there are other problems going on in the world, and I think that yes, it is a problem and it is a big problem, but I think that the way that people are approaching it is wrong.
Well, like other than being like a huge oxygen production place, as the Amazon forest is, am I too far away? It also is like one of the biggest natural carbon sinks other than the ocean in the world. So if you're looking at like, I know you guys had some disagreements last week about how climate change exists.
No,
but
I think that it exists, but
how it exists, I guess, like the specifics. Like if you deforest the Amazon rainforest, you're releasing a lot of carbon that trees capture into the atmosphere, which would heat up the earth further. And then additionally, like, I don't know, it gets ignored a lot, but when a rainforest like that is cut down, it displaces indigenous people. They're often like murdered or like very bad things happen to them if you cut down where they live, basically. So like, even if it's, not perhaps, and I don't even know if that's true, if it's not like the most intense deforestation period that has existed, I think it's still a very serious problem. And like going that like someone put on their Instagram story that 5 billion trees were cut down when 4 billion trees were cut down makes it seem like less of an issue. I don't know. It seems kind of weird to go like, since Leonardo DiCaprio is wrong, let's kind of pretend like the issue's not as big as it is.
I think that just well, not his exactly, but I feel like media isn't properly treating this situation. I feel like even in their solutions of saying, please, like, send your prayers, blah, 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 that's not actually taking into account the real problem. That's not a way to solve the problem. And I think that I don't know exactly how, or I remember seeing something on Instagram saying you can buy an acre of land to stop farmers from deforestation.
I mean, I don't know who can afford an acre of land. I don't know how much it costs in the rainforest, but like, I guess the one thing you could do is like advocate for the leaders, which is like how effective is that? But like advocate for someone like Donald Trump to send. I think that Jair Bolsonaro, the president of Brazil, rejected is either $20 million or $20 billion worth of aid for the deforestation that's going on.
Yeah, well, to butt into that, the problem, I think, roots with that president because back, I believe in 2013 or 2014, they went into recession because of him. And basically what happened... Wait, what?
Which president?
Oh, it might not have been one of the presidents, at least. I thought that it was him.
Bolsonaro is, I think he's in his first
Is he
term.
new? Okay,
Yeah,
all right. Then it was let me correct myself. A different president at the time made the country go into recession. And so basically the industries that were more like technologically based, a lot of people lost their jobs because of the recession. And they fled and they decided to go find jobs that were more harsh and labor intensive in the rainforest to extract finite resources. And so that's why that's why there has been this recent spike and this general increase in the forest fires and the deforestation. Yeah. But like if we think about it from like just a general timeless perspective, that Brazil, they're not the only country that has ever like done deforestation and like extracted finite resources to grow their economy. If you think about it, pretty much all first world countries have done that, and we're not trying to villainize them for doing that. We're not villainizing ourselves.
I would villainize like the U.S. for putting like oil pipelines on Native American ground. Which they still do. Like,
and I think that's wrong. Yeah, I think that's wrong.
I think I don't think all deforestation is wrong. I mean, I guess the term itself, deforestation, implies that it's not being reforested or it's destructive. If you like cut down trees and replace them, obviously it's a lot better.
Basically, they're cutting down trees and then trying to put farmland or like cow pastures.
For agriculture.
Yeah, which is bad because it adds to the like lack of the carbon sinks and also the methane that's being like put into the atmosphere by the cows, which is bad.
So it's like, I think saying that like other first world countries have done, and earlier, sorry for like coming out with 5 different arguments. I know it's hard to respond if I like go this thing and that thing, and you're like, oh, well, how do I respond? But like, if you have every country like using resources when there's renewable energy to use, and like, I guess with animal agriculture, the only solution to that would be less of it. So like more plant agriculture, because I know it's much more efficient to grow like 10 tons of carrots than it is to grow 10 tons of beef, but
profitable.
Yeah, I'm getting off.
They're thinking
off
about
track,
they're basically like, my point is that I'm not trying to back up Brazil, but their rationale for doing this is because they're trying to become more of a first world country that has more economic influences, and by doing that they are trying to become that first world nation, they are extracting and using their finite resources to become like a bigger economic superpower so that they have more influence in the global economy.
Perhaps there's a systemic critique missing where in a global economy where you have to destroy the world to like become successful, it's kind of like maybe the system is kind of having adverse incentives that are pushing people to do the wrong things. Like the only reason people are cutting down the forest and displacing indigenous people is because it's profitable.
Yeah, exactly. It's profitable. Yeah. And I hate that that's the world that we live in, but it is. And nations will do that in the case of Brazil to put themselves in a better standing so that their people can live better, even though in the long run, it's probably worse for humanity.
I don't even know if it's like for the people to live better. I feel like it's to enrich like people who already have wealth. Like, I don't know how many quality jobs are being created in the middle of the Amazon rainforest.
Yeah, well, I feel like by doing this deforestation, extracting the finite resources, it's going to grow their economy, and growing an economy generally presents better living standards. And that will connect later when we're going to talk about Brexit. So just a little hint for the future. Yeah.
It's a tease for later.
Yeah, just a little
okay.
tease.
Very good. All right.
Yeah. Does Grace, do you have anything to add in for that?
Oh, I've just kind of been watching this whole situation about social media with curiosity. This is like a real demonstration of the power that celebrities have in choosing what to influence like their followers with. The Amazon rainforest the deforestation of it has been a problem for decades, really. And now when it's now come to the point of when celebrities decide that it's trendy to care about it, that's when popular interest is gathered in it. And even though it might not be true facts, I think it's kind of interesting that now it's important to a lot of people.
Yeah. In the media business, we say the story has legs. It'll carry itself.
So it's a really weird situation in which there's a lot of Americans, at least, that are now like really invested in watching all this information about the Amazon rainforest come through, when also a lot of the land being used by the Brazilian farmers is to raise cattle, and a lot of that is made into beef for that Americans love to eat. Yep. So it's a really interesting.
Yeah, I think that like kind of connecting to that and bringing up a topic I kind of brought up before, that Brazil, we should bash them to a degree, but we also can't, because they're just trying to become a better nation.
Trying to utilize
they're trying to utilize what they have. Maybe not a better nation, but they're trying to become more developed.
Yeah.
Are we going to break soon?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Maddie, do you have anything to chip in really quickly?
Actually, I did. I think it's really interesting, kind of going off what Grace was saying about how it's trendy to care about the earth right now. And like, for example, as these things are going on, people are trying to find ways to like support indigenous peoples within the Amazon rainforests. And yet at the same time, I feel like that's kind of exploiting them for their culture and for their goods, especially from people that are making a profit. Because even if you're buying something that was made by people like indigenous people, the company who is finding those people to get these goods and send them out is still taking the majority of the profit. Like, it's not like much of it is going to the people themselves. Yeah.
I don't know who's like trying to say that we should buy more like dream catchers made by some white woman. Like I think people are saying that we shouldn't like kick them out of where they live.
No, I'm just saying that's part of it though.
Yeah.
That's something
that I've
noticed.
Like almost taking advantage of their culture.
No, that's something that I've noticed.
Oh yeah, I
agree
that happens.
There's good intentions behind it, but I feel like people aren't really thinking that deep into it. You know what I mean? And then also another like kind of off topic, but also related, with social media and how people are making profits off of the forest burning by saying that they have like making GoFundMes or Kickstarters or that kind of thing, and saying that they're donating the money, but in reality, the people are just collecting the profit for themselves, not actually donating anything.
Very wrong.
Yeah. All right, so we will catch you later after this break.
Okay, so
Bye-bye.
Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to WSTU 1450.
All right.
Nice job,
Very
Grace.
good.
Yeah. So
All right.
to try to change topics, because we've been ranting about the environment and weather for a little bit, for about half the show,
Yeah.
we're going to change it up and talk about Brexit. So I know that I've informed at least everyone here of the Brexit
Topic.
topic, but for listeners that do not know what the Brexit is, it basically is the British exit from the European Union.
Yes.
So this happened back in 2016, right?
I believe same
Yeah.
time during the election period. Yeah, it was roughly around the same time. Mhm.
Yep. Wait, did they actually exit, or just the plan to exit, the vote to
The
exit?
vote to exit.
Mhm.
So Theresa May, who was the prime minister at the time, she was tasked with the responsibility to do the paperwork with the EU to find a way to gracefully exit the financial arrangements that they have without creating a vacuum, if you will.
Mhm.
Because while they exit the EU, they had to simultaneously engage with separate agreements with Germany, France, and Italy, and the Netherlands, and
Yep.
all the countries that are involved in the EU. So they had to write separate financial treaties, if you will, or arrangements. And that just, they could not get the paperwork done. They just
Yep.
couldn't get an agreement.
And then she eventually resigned because she couldn't actually find an actual plan.
Correct.
So now, well, back in 2016, the pound, which is the British currency, was
Which
worth.
was never part of the EU. So while England was connected to the EU, they stayed on their own currency as opposed to using the EU currency, which turned out to be a very shrewd move on their part.
Yep. So back in 2016, their currency, the pound, was worth $1.50, and now it is worth $1.20 approximately. So it might not seem like that big of a difference, but in the economy, that is a very, very big difference. It has made their imports way more expensive and their exports way less expensive and less profitable. But the main reason that they left the EU, the main reason for the Brexit, was because there was a big problem involving the EU of just open borders and immigration, and so
and decisions being made in Brussels. So the authorities in Brussels would make a decision, and then it would apply to the residents that live within Great Britain, without the residents in Great Britain actually having any active participation in that decision making. And that's where I think they felt like, yeah, not so much.
Just like overall, to summarize it, basically England left because it wasn't as beneficial for them as it was before. It was pretty much harming them in a way. So there was a vote back in 2016. The Brexit plan was voted at a 52% majority, and so basically that was the start and the decline of their economy at that point. And so now that the pound is worth $1.20, they're facing many consequences, such as many companies are wanting to leave England because it's not as profitable for them to be in England. So that means that there's less jobs, which then influences the standard of living for people in England. And it's just overall a big problem. And I think a lot of people weren't really considering the long-term economic consequences when voting for this.
Well, they just signed during the G7. They just signed an agreement with a treaty with the U.S. government on increasing trade, and so they're going to be selling more British products to the U.S. The U.S. will be buying more, so they'll be getting U.S. dollars, which will improve their economy. So so this is short term, long term. I think when you're looking at money, global monies, unless you're in the spot market just buying and selling, that sort of thing, you have to look at it in 10, 20-year increments. So you have to be in it for the long haul. So this is just a blip in the radar. And whereas I think the shrewd decision makers are looking 10 years out, further out, and decisions being made today will create likely a better financial outcome for them going forward. So that's, I mean, that's, so sometimes there's short-term hurt for long-term gain, and you have to look at that.
Yeah, I didn't really take that into account, but I know that at least a lot of
Because we all live in the moment.
Yeah.
So you say, okay, right now, oh, this is painful.
Yeah. So basically, a lot of people in England are freaking out and now regretting some of their votes. And
Right.
also, I think it's important to note that since I think that there was only about 15 million on each side that voted, obviously more towards the Brexit.
So the folks that were in the rural areas, they all voted for
Brexit, yep.
And the folks that lived in London and they were in the more mechanized, areas,
They voted against it.
they voted for it.
Oh, for it.
So the financial institutions and like that, because they had the
They-
financial ties already with the EU, and so they were very comfortable with those. They were
Staying
making
with
money.
it, yeah.
They were making money. Those were business people that were already making money with their financial connections as they were. The folks in the rural area were saying, nobody's speaking for us, and we really want to have more of a stake in our future. So I suspect that is really that, and it was just fortunate there were more people that voted.
Yeah.
That's why it worked out that way. More people voted in the rural areas than the urban areas.
I think that it's important to know, and I think people in England are realizing, like, no matter their views, they wish that they voted in this because they're reaping some sort of consequence from it.
Yeah.
Whether it's short term or long term.
Right.
And I think that, like, it's an important note that is even applicable within the United States. I'm sure that our listeners are most likely voters and, like, politically active, but I think it's important to note that voting is very important, and that's what our country is based on, and we shouldn't take it for granted like many people do. Like,
Right.
especially the younger generation. Like, how many people here are registered to vote?
See? All right.
You're going to get on
I
that?
was
You
gonna
better.
say something in Spanish, but I
No.
don't know how to say I'm registered to vote in Spanish, so
Darn.
I'm registered to vote.
All right.
Yeah.
So we have a full house. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. So you guys will be voting in the 2020?
Yep.
I'm gonna
Nice.
sit out just to spite you.
No, don't.
Just joking.
No, don't. No matter what your vote is, you
Right.
should vote to
Right.
state your opinion.
Well, if you don't vote, you get the government that you didn't vote for.
Yeah.
That's pretty much.
If you
That's
don't
pretty-
vote, you just can't complain.
Exactly.
That's the
Yep,
end of
that's the
story.
saying.
Right.
Mhm.
No, yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah,
I mean,
but-
some people can't vote, like millions of people, like felons. I don't know. If
Well,
you
that-
smoke weed once, you can't vote.
I thought that they're trying to retract some of the.
Yeah, they
Well, some
actually
states
did.
are.
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
Florida just, I think, abolished that
think-
this past year.
Federally, I'm pretty sure felonies still restrict you from voting, if I'm not wrong.
Federal, I don't know how that applies to state-wide elections.
So it's
Yeah.
like there are a lot of people who, sorry, Grace, I know you're about to talk. There are a lot of people who are disenfranchised. Like voter ID laws, this is very controversial, I guess, but in Supreme Court
it
cases.
shouldn't be. Do you need a driver's license to get on an airplane or some sort of voter ID?
You need some sort of ID,
identification.
unless you're under the age of
Right.
18.
So it seems to me if you want to freely vote in an election, you should have some sort of ID and say,
Mhm.
instead of just saying, okay, you should know me.
Yeah,
Why?
I think that it's not that difficult to get an ID.
I mean, I feel like there's different ways of doing it than voter ID. I mean, it might not be difficult for a lot of people to get IDs, but there are a lot of like,
Give me an example.
well, like I believe it was either North Carolina or South Carolina, there was, I don't know if it went all the way up to the Supreme Court of the United States or just to the Supreme Court of whatever Carolina it was, but they ruled that the voter ID laws were put in place just to disenfranchise Black voters. So
What year was that?
it should be relatively recently. The issue I have
I-
a lot of the
I-
times is because I speak.
I think you need to give me more fact-based information.
Well, that's why I have issues
Yeah.
sometimes on this show, because it's like I can't
You can't.
I can't really pull up my phone and like find an article all the time.
Yeah.
But I just know that like voter ID laws have been advocated for in ways that would disenfranchise voters that would not vote Republican or conservative. And
That's just not factually accurate.
well, do
that's-
you have
that's-
facts to
Yeah,
Saturday, I guess?
actually there are facts that back that up, because the fact of the matter is there is absolutely no instances that anybody could cite that that there was voter suppression in any recent election at all.
I feel like that would have been like really big in the media if it was brought
Yeah.
up, especially
Well, I mean,
against
one
like
state.
it's just absolutely, it's just not fact based.
Well, they saw in the
but
legislature.
there's an awful lot of that sort of verbal pandering that
Back and forth
that
between
suggests
parties.
that. But and that's just to build up. There's an emotional angle to that dialogue.
I wouldn't say it's emotional. I just feel like
but it is. It's oh well, we need to do this because we don't want to hurt these people's feelings.
Could I
But-
butt in real quick? It's there's not a long history, but like a recent long history of Republicans calling for voter ID laws, and it happens to be very convenient that when you put voter ID laws in place, people who would vote Democrat happen to be more disenfranchised
No,
than.
that's-
I mean, I guess if I'm on here next week or some
Please
other
do.
week, I could pull it up.
please,
But,
please.
you
give me-
can look it up right now, Gage.
well, my phone's dead. I would
Do
I would
you want my
be
phone?
pulling out straight facts right now.
All right, yeah.
But y'all continue. I'll fact check myself.
Okay, it sounds like a plan. All right, we'll be right back. So stick with us after this brief break.
All right, welcome back to WSTU 1450.
All right.
Nice job, Maddie. All right, so do we want to continue talking about Brexit, or is there anything else that anyone wants to bring up? All right, cool.
All right.
So, we can bring up talking, since a major theme in our shows so far today has been just centering around the economy.
Mhm.
So, another thing after the G7 summit is that China is now attempting to de-escalate the trade war between the United States and them. And I think this is definitely not the first time that they've attempted to de-escalate, but
Mhm.
we'll see how legitimate their de-escalation is.
Yes, I think the verbiage they used is they wanted to use calm language, and so because things had gotten rather heated
Yeah, I noticed that 3 days
during
earlier.
the weekend.
Yeah, 3 days earlier, Trump said that they were our enemies, and now they're saying that China's leader is a great leader.
Hmm.
Those weren't direct quotes, but something along
Right,
those
right,
lines. Yeah.
right. You're paraphrasing, but
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely. So the situation is he's he's a salesman, right?
Mhm.
And so he's trying to sell the deal,
Yeah.
and he doesn't want to kill the deal.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, it's a better deal for China,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a fine deal for us if we can get China to move properly in the direction of doing the right thing. Treat their people better, pay them a better living wage. That would be a refreshing change of pace. And the theft of intellectual property, that needs to end. They need to buy more U.S. products. They only buy a little over $100 billion a year annually, like 140 billion, something like that. And they sell over 500 billion to the U.S. every year. So they can certainly buy, and there's certainly a demand for U.S. products.
Yep.
Because of tariffs, and they just don't wish to purchase those products. They make it more difficult for the people to buy the products, so they're not going to. So that it creates a trade imbalance, and I don't think we're going to ever get a perfect balance, but we could sure make it less lopsided.
I think that China, at least in my opinion, with like my research and stuff, I think that China is realizing that the United States has the upper hand in this situation, since America is the consumer and China is typically more of the producer of the products.
Right. So and I think one of the talking heads referred to it as bullets in a chamber. We just have more bullets. So we can make them more painful, more difficult for them.
Yeah, because we can go out and find a lot of other countries that are willing to give us the resources that China. Because are there any resources that you can think of that China has exclusively?
No.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
So I think China's realizing that they kind of need to depend a little bit. Well, not really depend, but they should stay.
They've grown used to our relationship, and I think that there's a little complacency that takes place for both parties. But I think we need to appreciate what they bring to the table, and they need to play and be more honest. The problem is that they've made agreements like fentanyl. They agreed that they weren't going to allow fentanyl to come into the U.S., which is killing people.
Yep.
And they welched on that deal. Well, they need to honor that deal. So holding them to the fire to when they make an agreement to honor that agreement should not be a difficult thing to do. If they're honorable people, you honor an agreement. Seems to me.
Yeah. All right. So are there any other topics, Grace? Have you researched anything on Uber by any chance? No? Well, we can talk about Uber a little bit. I know that, just say if you've taken an Uber within the past year.
I.
All right. Have you ever had a bad experience with Uber?
Not anything memorable. They've always been better than taxis.
All right.
So do you know exactly when Uber became really sensational or grew?
Probably with the last maybe 5 years, I think.
Like 2014 is what I was going to say.
So basically, there's been so many recent headliners involving Uber with either Uber accidents, not accidents physically, but like sexual assault or anything like that on both sides. Yeah. And apparently the ex-CEO of Uber was not handling that properly and actually dismissing some sexual assault allegations. So
that's not a good thing.
No.
Oh my goodness. So we didn't realize there was an issue with Uber having
those sexual assault allegations. Yeah. So the CEO actually resigned because the allegations it caught wind of the allegations and how he was dismissing them.
So how does that work now? Uber is actually the people who drive, they use their own personal cars. So they're like contractors, right? And there's water behind you there.
I gotta grab it.
All right. So, as contractors, they're obligated to do what? They're obligated to
like undergo a background check and, get their car certified and stuff. And just, they have to maintain like a 4-star rating.
Like
Yeah.
Something like that. Something that's pretty high compared to I don't know, the lack of transparency that like went into kind of like taxi cabs before rating drivers became a thing.
Right. That's a good question. Yeah. So the problem is that because they're private contractors, that if there's a problem, it doesn't go back to the company, right? Is that they have to take care of it on their end?
The contractors have to take care of it.
No, it's the Uber people, the owner, the management company of Uber. If there's a problem in the street with the vehicle that's an Uber vehicle, it's isolated to that vehicle, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I mean, it's not necessarily a problem for the company. I mean, I'm trying to understand how the dynamic works.
I have no clue about the management structure of Uber.
All that I know that it is pretty corrupt, and actually the profit margins for Uber have not really been increasing since its beginning, and it's been pretty stable, if anything, in a decline. Because it's not.
Well, there's other companies now. They have a competitor called Lyft, right?
Yeah, they have Lyft, and Lyft is pretty prevalent in most cities that Uber is in.
So and their business model is pretty much the same.
Exactly the same, actually, and the price margin for it is pretty much exactly the same. I think that Lyft might be a little bit more expensive because it appeals to people that think that Uber is not safe. So, yeah.
Wow, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what about autonomous cars? Is it possible you think Uber is going to go that way?
Honestly, I don't think that autonomous cars are going to be really prevalent, at least within all of the generations that are alive today, because we've grown up with robots being controlled by humans, not robots controlling themselves. So I think that even like when you're talking about surgeries that are controlled by robots actually doing the surgeries, or robots driving the cars, or well, not just being autonomous, I don't think that that's going to be very prevalent, at least within the next 20 years, because people are so used to humans controlling.
I mean, plus the fact that there's so much fine tuning that has to be done. I mean, you look at all the times they've tried to like have autonomous cars go out on the roads and stuff. And while there are like the majority of the cases have been safe, there also have been a good number of accidents in which people have been like seriously injured because of self-driving cars. So I feel like anything really operating on its own that is not a sentient being has like room for issues. So I don't know.
But the other thing is, though, when you think about 20 years, the past 20 years technologically,
how much we've advanced,
insane. I mean, who would have ever thought how much trust and how much our lives would revolve around a walking cell phone that you can carry and has all your information for anything. Like it's almost like impossible to get around these
and
days
live without
a cell phone, because that's what memorizes all of your information that you want to have saved right on you right then. That's how you communicate with everyone. That's how you have access to a bank of information at your fingertips.
Yep.
So it's kind of hard to be able to say like, oh yeah, 20 years, there's no way we'll have automatic cars.
Yeah, but there's no way to actually predict. But it's also interesting how in the past there was predictions that there would be flying cars and all these different things, but that never actually came true to the time period that they predicted.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know. I think autonomous cars,
they're up on the rise, you think?
Yeah, I think there's going to be sooner rather than later. I really do. The technology is moving almost exponentially. So, it's Morris's law. If you studied chemistry or any of the sciences, you know about Morris's law, and it's moving so quickly. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if in another couple of years
it'll become more prevalent.
We're a lot more receptive to change than we realize.
Oh, yeah. I definitely agree to that.
Yeah. So, that'll be interesting to follow, and I think that probably the driverless Ubers probably would be a more successful application of the Uber concept, anyways.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we just made it through another hour, and we thank you for participating, and we thank you for listening, and we'll be back here again next week, right here on Treasure Coast Forum.